What's going on, everyone? Thank you for coming to watch. So I've got an update for you guys on Hurricane Lee. So we are still dealing with Lee here, back up with your daily update here. So doing one in the morning just because we're in the weekend. So I'm planning on doing a morning update right now, and then maybe this evening I'll also give you guys an update on Lee. So right now Lee is weakening. It's back down to I believe a Category 3 hurricane. So it is barely a major hurricane at the moment, but it's expected to re-strengthen into a high-end Category 4 hurricane before starting to give some impacts to land. We really gotta still watch where exactly the storm's going to go, but let me tell you, I think we're getting some more, I wouldn't say certainty, but we're getting a little bit of a better idea of where it could go, and I think it's going to miss the U.S. Okay, personally, if I had to say that right now, like literally, I had to say right now, I think we would get a track kind of like that. I think we would definitely get some outer bands reaching into the southern New England coastline, especially if the storm started curving farther west and later, because it would miss that trough and enter that space where we could get where we can get a landfall. So I mean, there's still many ways that this thing can go, but I'm just showing you the possible ways. So right now, Lee, it is a 115-mile-an-hour Category 3 hurricane with a central pressure of around 963 millibars. Okay, this thing is moving pretty swiftly west-northwest around 12 miles an hour, so it's still just drifting in that direction. But once we get into this little region right here, this box here, that's where we're going to see that movement starting to go up north. And if you look at, AccuWeather and all those major weather websites, you will see that their tracks, they have actually issued their forecast tracks up until about here. You can see it looks like that in a way, okay? So you may be thinking like, oh no, this is going right for Maine, this is going right for Nova Scotia. But I do think I have some more certainty about this thing kind of going like that, unless that ridging out here gets stronger. So, I mean, I hope that made sense to you, but for now, we're just going to be looking at Lee's current information, and then later in the update, we'll talk about its future impacts. So, behind it, we also have future Hurricane Margot. This is a tropical storm. Margot is really not doing much out there. It's moving very slowly. It's just kind of just doing its thing out there. It's going to be a fish storm, but it's not strengthening, it's not weakening, so it's kind of just doing its thing. So, going to be moving on to the satellite loop for Hurricane Lee. Alright, so, looking at Lee right here, Lee just looks like a regular hurricane. It does not look like a major hurricane. I mean, it really just does not look like a major hurricane. These are the Lesser Antilles, right here, the Northern Islands. So, you guys out there tuning in, I know I have a few subscribers from out here. You guys just, make sure that you're watching what the system does, because it can shift farther south. It's pretty late for that, but it can shift farther south and then give you guys some more impacts. But it's probably going to start raining in a few hours. So, don't think that you're getting a landfall. You're just getting a taste of some of the outer bands of Lee. So Lee is pretty much just going to stay north of you guys, but those rip currents, they're going to be massive. Those waves are, they're huge. Okay, this thing used to be a Category 5 monster, especially on these northeastern islands right here. These two islands here, I'm not sure what names these islands are. You guys will probably see the worst of the waves because the rotation of the storm is moving kind of. Let me switch the color. Let me put it into blue right here. 1 second, guys. So the kind of the direction of the rotation is like that, okay? And so that's just gonna push some more swells, and some more waves as the storm becomes parallel with you guys. So you really gotta watch out for that. But you don't see an eye anymore. There really isn't an eye on Lee as for now, okay? So Lee is certainly being attacked by some shears, especially on the western side. Look at these rain bands are just getting sheared off, okay? And then we have some high pressure that's enriching, that's building on top of the system, pushing it farther south. we knew that was going to happen. It's trying to squeeze through that, and so that's just causing it to slow down a little bit, okay? But otherwise, Blaze definitely got some moisture to deal with, so it's still definitely got the ingredients for a strong hurricane because these waters are very warm. There's favorable conditions. There's a lot of moisture. But it's just the wind shear and the ridging that's causing the storm to kind of settle down a little bit. But we're going to be moving on to our current path here, issued by the National Weather Service, or National Hurricane Center, I should say. So this has changed in the past few days. I have noticed that we are starting to see a trend of the storm curving farther east. I think we used to, the first initial cone pretty much showed the storm starting to curve north at this point here. That would certainly put the United States coast at risk, all the way up from the Outer Banks of North Carolina, all the way up towards southern New England. That certainly was the problem. But we're seeing a curving that's going to happen as soon as 2 a.m. Wednesday. So you're getting into the middle of Tuesday night, and you're starting to see the storm curving north. That's going to put Bermuda at risk. That's going to lower the chances slightly for the United States, but that's going to, get the chances higher for Nova Scotia and Newfoundland to get hit because, those two pieces of land are sticking out farther east, out towards the Atlantic, farther east than, the United States. So, you gotta watch that, but we are back down to, we're forecasting this storm to continue weakening back down to a Category 2 hurricane all the way up until around 2 a.m. Sunday. This is where we get our second round of rapid intensification. We get into Monday. This is early Monday morning. We now have a major hurricane on our hands once again. Probably a Category 4 hurricane up until around Thursday morning. And then Thursday morning, we get back down to a Category 3 hurricane. That's pretty much going to stay as it moves up the coast, kind of just parallel to the coast. So if this were to make landfall near the United States or in the United States, it'd probably make landfall as a Category 3, Category 2 hurricane. It's way too far out to really say anything, but it's looking like that we're gonna get that Lee's probably gonna be in that intensity range as it nears the coastline. But we'll now move on to our 4-panel here. So we'll look at our details on Lee. We have a very, I want you to notice, we have a very big, just like a huge swath of hurricane force winds. Okay, I want to notice that here. We do have an update though, a slight update. So the winds have been, so the winds here on Lee, they're definitely, I would say actually, it looks like Lee is actually strengthening at the moment. This is just the latest update. So you can see now we have maximum sustained winds at around looks like 120, 115 miles an hour, and that central pressure has just dropped like 5 millibars here. So we are now getting some slight intensification with Lee. But as I was saying here, we have a huge swath of hurricane force winds from Lee. I mean, I was looking at the aircraft recon. There were 2 missions that went out when the storm was a Category 5 hurricane. I mean, it was an insane amount of land and just, well, not land I should say, but just an area that the storm covered with sustained winds at over 70 miles an hour. It's pretty crazy, but we're going to be moving on now to our intensity guidance here. This is our chart showing us how strong the storm is forecasted to get based on all these models out here. So you can see that they quickly take this up back to Category 4 status. There's only one that, spikes Category 4, takes it up to Category 5. I don't think we're going to see another Category 5. It'd be very, very tough for this storm to do it. But I think we will definitely make it to at least low-end Category 4 status before this thing starts dropping again. Now we start being a little steady out here in Category 3. but some of these models do. These lingering models down here, they take it back down to Category 2, Category 1, some in which take it down to even tropical storm status. So, you know, it's just something that's going to change every day, that's for sure. So, you never know, but there are two spikes. I've noticed here there's two ramp-ups of this intensification. This one that we're about to go through once we get into the late weekend, and then the next one, which should be around Monday or into Tuesday. So those are the two time frames I want you guys to watch, because if the storm can maintain Category 4 status and then have another ramp-up, that's where we can see Category 5 into the picture again. But so far, it's looking like the models want this to drop back and then go up again. So it's something that's gonna change a lot. But we just gotta watch every single update we get on it. So gonna be comparing the GFS and the European model here for our storm. This is the latest 6Z model, or 6Z run, I should say. The 12Z should be coming out very soon. Okay, so by the time all of you guys are watching this video, pretty much the 12Z should be coming out, so go check that out. But here we go, we got our storm. So it's starting to get into that phase where it's going to enter rapid intensification. We're getting down to a 951 millibar hurricane. So this is a Category 4 or Category 3 hurricane. At this point, you can see we're getting into about Thursday. So this is Thursday of next week, okay? Bermuda is right here. Bermuda is pretty much right in the way of the system. So, I mean, this is looking like we're going to get one of those scenarios where the storm would miss the United States but impact Bermuda and then maybe Nova Scotia or Newfoundland, okay? Because our trough is right here. It's already swinging by. So, it really doesn't have a choice but to go with the trough, because it's already gaining latitude. It wants to gain latitude. Alright, and this high pressure is serving as a brick wall covering the eastern United States. So it's not going to allow Lee to enter the United States, okay? And so that trough is strong enough to pick the storm up. And, I mean, that high pressure, it's not the strongest ever, but it is weak enough to allow the storm to move just straight up north and not go completely out to sea. It's still attached, though, by this trough, which is strengthening, okay? And so it continues moving north, then it gets yanked farther east, and then impacts Nova Scotia, and then Newfoundland, okay? So, I mean, that's going to be something to watch, certainly. We still got a 972 millibar category, probably a Category 1, Category 2 hurricane based off the latest GFS run. Alright, just remember that these waters, they're cooling down a little bit because they're farther up north. So, and the storm's also going to be moving pretty slowly. So, I think that we might, this is good news, we might have enough time for the storm to weaken to the point where if we do get a Nova Scotia or Newfoundland landfall, it won't be as bad as previous model runs have been saying, whereas we could get a Category 3 hurricane making landfall, okay? But those outer bands, this is something that both the GFS and the Euro have been showing, the outer bands reaching into the Massachusetts and southern New England coastline, but not quite the more of the center of the storm. But it's gonna be close. It's certainly gonna be close, especially for Maine too. If this actually shifts a little bit farther west and then just continues going straight up north, that's going to put Maine and Nova Scotia at a bigger risk. Also, the northeast and southern New England coastline, okay? But that is pretty much it for the latest GFS run. So, we're going to be looking at now the latest Euro. Alright, this is the 6C Euro. I believe this only goes about 90 hours out. Yeah, 90 hours out, so it's gonna take us another run to come through for us to get the full 240 hours. But anyways, we see the storm starting to strengthen here down to a 968 millibar Category 3 hurricane. And I would say the Euro it's pretty good on this run, I would have to say, because it's not over strengthening the storm, which it has been for a lot of previous runs, but it's not, it's not under strength. it's like in the middle, in between over-strengthening and under-strengthening. So it's pretty much in a good neutral phase here. But, we see that jump farther north a little bit. It's starting to just kind of stop a little bit, and it's starting to slow down. Okay, it's eyeing the Bahamas, and you guys in the Bahamas must be freaking out at this point. You got a monster potential Category 4 hurricane a few hundred miles east of you guys. Okay, you're not going to get it. You may receive the outer bands of the system, especially for you guys in the southern islands, but you're not going to get a direct impact. You're going to get big waves for sure. You're going to get monsters, as a matter of fact, rough surf, and you're going to get some gusty winds, relatively gusty winds, and then some heavy rainfall. That's going to be it. All right. So it's really just going to be a rainy and windy day, other than the fact that you're going to get big waves. So you may see tropical storm conditions. That's certainly possible, but I really don't think it's going to be nearly as bad as what could happen if the storm did make landfall, a direct landfall. But I shouldn't say it could happen. I'm just going to say that if that happened, then you would get a lot stronger impacts, but you're not going to get landfall from land. But we continue the run here. Actually, we can't. So we stop it here. This is saying that the Euro is really showing a slower system. The Euro is showing by Wednesday. The storm is still here, hanging around by Bermuda and the Bahamas. Okay. Now we look at what the GFS says for this time. All right. And the GFS, I guess it is true. The GFS and the Euro have been relatively close to each other on the first portion of the system. But, I don't know what it was. I think it was the OC that was showing the Euro and the GFS having a big difference in the time here. But we could go back to the OZ Euro because we get the full run of the system. Just 1 second here, guys. Alright, and we have a 945 millibar hurricane now, so we're getting a little bit stronger here. Same placement though, but it's showing a much of a stronger system. But watch how this storm is so slow. It's moving. At this point, we're getting into Wednesday. This is showing a hurricane, a Category 4 monster hurricane moving due west at around 5 miles an hour. It's a very slow moving storm, according to the Euro. But we get all the way to Friday. We take this out to Friday. Alright? Or we'll stop it at Thursday. We're getting into 5 p.m. Thursday. Alright, you got a 955 millibar hurricane just north of Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. Okay? The GFS by Thursday has the storm pretty much in the same area. So I guess it's been lining up, the timing and placement of the storm. They've been lining up a little bit better. So that's a sign that's telling you that the models are getting their act together a little bit on what could potentially happen with these systems. But let me go back to the OZ here on the Euro and just continue through the run. We don't have to compare the Euro with the timing of the GFS, but we continue watching what this does. We get out to, now we're getting into Friday. We're getting to 8 p.m. Friday, okay? And we have a very strong hurricane here. We're getting into 2 p.m. Actually, no, we're getting into 2 p.m. Friday, okay? So we're getting into 2 p.m. Friday. This is what we have going on according to the European model. And we see if the storm impacts Bermuda. It's going to make it very close. Bermuda would definitely receive tropical storm conditions. I would say you could get gusts out in Bermuda over hurricane force, strength, I would say. According to this run, this is not going to happen. This is going to change. But if this were to happen, then you would get those type of conditions out there on Bermuda. But then the storm, notice how it starts curving out. It's completely missed the trough. Alright? This is that trough we were talking about here. Alright? This is it right here, located over Maine, bringing some rain in, and it does not pick up the storm at all, okay? One would think that because it misses the trough completely, can't it just move like that? Well, you see, this is what we've got here. The trough is going to be replaced by a big area, a dominating area of high pressure. That's also going to be controlling the eastern United States, along with this one out here in the central United States. I'm telling you guys, this is going to be a brick wall for storms to enter the United States. And it's right in that area where we want it, because if this were, let's say, located over here, alright, we would still not get a southeast impact, but we would still have a lot of space open in the northeast and mid-Atlantic region for a landfall and hurricane. But it's right there in the northeast, and so that just that helps shove the storm off the coast, and it goes out to sea. Alright? But watch the end of it. It's still a 981 millibar hurricane, okay? It's still got winds over 74 miles an hour, but it runs into this area of high pressure ridging out here. It's very, very strong, almost 1,030 millibars, but that's going to definitely, that's going to up the chances for Newfoundland to be at risk for a landfalling hurricane. But if this were to be true, the storm would totally miss pretty much the northeast coastline and Nova Scotia, okay? Maybe the outer bands would impact you guys, but the storm pretty much almost goes right out to sea, okay? So this is one of those model runs that shows the best case scenario, where you get the least of the impact for the least of people and just populated areas out here, and it doesn't make a direct landfall on anybody, really. Alright, so we go to the GFS. We're going to be looking at now this is where our low pressure and our high pressure is, okay? These warmer colors, you've been through the drill here, our warmer colors signifies high pressure ridging. Our cooler colors, our blues and our whites here, this is open space or troughing here, or just low pressure in general, okay? So you can see we get our high pressure ridging in front of the system. It's trying to shove that out of the way, okay? And so it finally opens up and retreats. Notice how it's almost like a retractor. I don't know. Actually, I wouldn't say retractor, but it's kind of like a machine, how it just opens up space for the storm to go through. Look how that retreats. And then if this high pressure begins to move south as the storm pulls out, okay, and it becomes stationary right here, and it doesn't move that much, alright, then you would totally have the northeast would totally be at a higher risk, alright? So let's say the storm goes like this into the northeast. The only way that could happen is if this high pressure ridging moves farther south and it takes up this area right here. Okay, that's a pretty big area. Okay, that's going to serve as a brick wall for the storm to really go out to sea, and it's getting picked up by that trough at the same time. So really, you wouldn't see the storm go straight up north, because the trough is going to be swinging by fast, but then it gets slowed down as it runs into that stronger potential high pressure ridging. That's going to allow the storm to move into the United States. But that's not the case here. We get a pretty much opposite case. We have some high pressure ridging that's strong, okay? So I guess it wouldn't be completely opposite. But, it's way out here in the upper North Atlantic, okay? But you still get some relatively strong ridging out near I guess this would be the Atlantic Canadian and northeastern borderline, kind of parallel to that. So that's not going to allow the storm to go way out to sea and completely miss the United States. This is what's making it close. Let's say this bridging is farther west. Well, then the storm would be pushed farther west. If it's farther east, the storm would have more space to go farther east. It's pretty much as simple as that. But it's just, I think it's really up to this ridging here. We got a pretty good idea of what's going on with this trough here. I think it's going to be pretty strong and it's going to be pretty fast moving. It's really depending on what this ridge is doing, how strong it is, and where it's going to be placed. But it's not. You can see it's not allowing the storm to go anywhere. But if, let's say, this ridging goes up here, okay, and it's really strong, that's going to potentially. This could potentially. I'm saying this is an idea. If, let's say, you get ridging, I wouldn't say up there, but like pretty much just right over here, okay, and it's covering this general area. Let me just draw it here. This general area in high pressure here. All right, that is going to that could definitely do one thing, which we would definitely not want this storm to do, which would be to stall out right by the coast. Okay, because the latest GFS doesn't have any ridging out here in the eastern U.S., so it could stall out here and then slowly creep into the northeast coastline. Okay, if that were to happen. Okay, but it's pretty much a different scenario. You have high pressure over here, now reaching kind of into an area like over here. All right, and that's not going to necessarily push the storm into the United States. Just going to push it a little bit closer. It's not going to allow the storm to go way out to sea like other other scenarios would. But I'm just showing you the possibility, the possibility of different scenarios, different outcomes, and or I guess I just different impacts to different places. But the storm starts moving north. It's very weak, and it's also very slow because it's trying to battle with the rest of what it's got up against that ridging, and it pretty much just fizzles out right over Newfoundland and Newfoundland and Nova Scotia. Okay, so that's gonna be it for the GFS. We'll look at the GFS for our high pressure and low pressure. We look at now our upper level wind streams here. This is our driving pattern here. These are wind patterns. This is what is pushing the storm aloft and just putting it in its uh, direction. But you can see here, just right off the bat, I want you guys to notice there is a very, very large anticyclonic flow around the system. Okay, this is a very, this is a very intense system already. But you don't usually see an anticyclonic flow for a hurricane this large. Okay, usually you'll see it a little bit, a lot closer towards the center of the storm. But this is a huge area that's it's blocking. It's kind of like a brick wall for the storm itself. That's what Lee pretty much generated for itself. Okay, but notice how the western side of that is a lot weaker. We get over here, and the western part, the western edge of that wall, pretty much is right here right by where the center of the storm is. So pretty much that western side of the storm is getting sheared off as we speak. But watch how that anticyclonic flow begins to strengthen on the western side. That shows you that we're going to get some rapid intensification with the system. All right, and so we also do get some upper level winds that push out to sea. All right, they're going to be shifting. I would kind of like that. Then they start going like this up north. Okay, that's going to also help push the storm up north. Right, so the storm wants to gain latitude because it's strong, and those winds are also helping that. Right, and so it gets caught up in those winds. If it were to get caught up by the winds farther west, we could definitely see the storm be pushed up into the coast, because right off the bat you can tell those winds, those upper level winds here up in the northeast, are just ripping. Okay, I mean, you can see we've got these are winds at around 45,000 feet in the air. All right, those are winds at around 150 knots. Okay, so that is certainly going to help the storm move in its direction. So it's really right here is what decides, another region of what decides where the storm goes. Okay, so something that would really help is that if it's all the way over here, which it's most likely not going to be, then it would kind of move in an area like that. That could be something that's going to happen, but it doesn't appear that that is going to happen according to the latest GFS. All right, it gets caught up in these winds that start to push it more or less out to sea, but then it gets caught up by that ridging, and that's what keeps it from going way out to sea. All right, so let's say we minus the ridging here, or this ridging is just way up here. Then the storm could certainly go way out to sea. All right, but because it's there, it's not going to allow the storm to go out to sea necessarily. So it's pretty much going to have it's pretty much going to be going in the middle between getting caught up in these winds, excuse me, farther west, and caught up in this trough here. This I wouldn't actually, excuse me, trough. This ridging out here farther east. So that's just going to push it straight up north. If that makes sense. But we see that pretty much that exactly happens. But it does get caught up in these really strong winds here. In this purple shade here, this red shade and purple shade, that expands because this is associated with that trough. All right, these are our winds that are picking up the storm. All right, and so it goes with those winds and moves farther north, and then it impacts Nova Scotia, and then maybe later in the week, maybe towards the weekend, we get a second landfall on Newfoundland. So, I mean, it's many. There's many things that are contributing to why and where the storm is going. But that, I mean, that tells you that even like we go back over here, or even 138 hours out, you can still have many things that could change. Where you could go from seeing a almost completely knowing, thinking that you almost completely know what's going to happen, to pretty much getting the exact opposite outcome. That's why it's very important to make sure that you're not saying things too soon or saying things that could potentially not be true when the actual event happens. But no, we'll look at the European ensembles just to see what the models have been saying according to the precise track of the system. You can see that the majority of them, they take it off the coast of the United States. All right, it doesn't impact the United States, but it does impact Nova Scotia. Okay, Nova Scotia is really going to be at risk for getting hit by the system. All right, and these tracks here, these members, they have the storm being around a 960 millibar, most likely Category 2, Category 3 hurricane as it impacts Nova Scotia. All right, I think that it's probably going to be a little bit weaker than that if it does hit Nova Scotia. But right now, I think Nova Scotia has around an 80% chance of receiving at least gusty winds over tropical storm force and some heavy rainfall. I think that we'll probably see a little bit more impacts, a little bit stronger impacts. But I'm just saying this right now. There is a chance for sure that Nova Scotia could get a landfalling hurricane sometime. I would say just a week out, really. Next weekend is really the weekend we just got to watch out for. But some of these lingering members, notice how there are some lingering members out here that take this a little bit closer to the United States. Some scrape across the northeastern coastline, and then one goes into Maine here. So you got to watch out for these. But I would say the majority of them, not necessarily taking this out to sea, but missing the United States and then hitting Nova Scotia. So this is going to be, I know that's for some of you must be like, oh, all right, so this is not really a bad storm. But then you look up here for our friends in Atlantic Canada, Nova Scotia, and we see pretty much every single one of these members taking the storm right into you guys. So I don't want you guys to be freaking out there. I don't think I have many viewers from that region out there, but if one of you are watching this video, I just want you to make sure that you understand that there is a pretty high chance that you'll receive some substantial impacts by late, but there's a big chance that you get a landfalling hurricane. Just don't be scared, be prepared, and just, make sure you're ready for whatever could happen. All right, and so we also do have this is Tropical Storm. Let's go back. Let's go to Tropical Storm Margot. I just want to show this for a second here. All right, and so Margot pretty much just looks like a blob on your screen, not really doing much. But Margot has actually shown some a possibility of some strengthening. It's forecast to become a hurricane by 8 p.m. Monday, and then we see this continue into Thursday. Watch out for the end of the system. It's going to take a long time. I think it's unlikely, but there's a chance that this could take a very weird path and actually impact Newfoundland, okay? I probably shouldn't even be saying this, but I'm just saying that, just watch out, just keep watching and tracking the system, but you could see the cone start shifting a little bit closer to the idea that we could see potentially the storm getting a little bit closer to Newfoundland, okay? Just something to watch into the late work week. Just gotta watch out for any potential impact to any piece of land. But for the last part of the update, got to be looking at our GFS. These are our GFS ensembles here. So you can see that, again, they really just, they take the most of them. They take this out to sea a quarter, for the United States, and then they make a turn, and then they hit parts of southeastern Nova Scotia. That could certainly be, a scenario that we get. But look at this. We have about 10 members out here, these lingering members out here, that take it right up into southern New England. Okay, this is going to be something that you're going to have to watch. There is still a small signal for a landfalling major hurricane on southern New England. Okay, the chances have been lowering because you can see the majority of and most of these members taking it more or less out to sea for you guys in the Northeast, and then hitting Newfoundland, Nova Scotia. But some of these members still have an idea of potentially the storm potentially making landfall on the Mid-Atlantic and southern New England coastline. So just gotta watch out for any change in the forecast and any potential different scenario that we could get. So I got for you guys. Thanks so much for coming to watch. I'll see you guys next video. I might have an update again. I might have an update later tonight, probably around 7. I don't know what time I would do it, but just make sure that you're looking at every single update on Lee if you are in the potential path of it. But just going to continue doing these daily updates for you guys just to make sure that everyone is aware of what's going on with Lee. So thank you all for coming to watch, and we'll see you guys in the next video.